Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Welcome to CBSE with Sudhir, where I am going to specifically talk about what strategy you should employ for the Class 12 English Board examination. Specific tips that you should use while you are preparing in the 2 day gap before the English examination, the time management strategy, and what are the specific things that you need to bear in mind while you are writing the examination. So, the two basic things. Please remember, in order to score an 80 on 80 in the English paper in class 12 board examination, one is speed, because please bear in mind, the paper is usually lengthy. There is a lot to be written and there are lots of questions. Given the fact that there are many choices also in the questions, students tend to even mix and mess up and miss. So three M's: mix up, mess up, and miss a question. Please don't do that mistake. Whatever you do, please put a tick mark to show that you have already attempted that question. Please remember this tip, because this is something which has happened to many students in the past. The second thing is right presentation. So very important, in order to ensure that you use the right kind of language. Use, of course, the right format when it comes to the writing skills, the job application, the letters to the editor, the notice, etc. But even in literature answers, how you present your answers is very important. Please have a look at my test papers which I have put on this channel for each one of those chapters. That will give you an idea about how to write it in the formal language, also using all the keywords. Okay, so these two things are important. Please don't miss on that. Now, sorry. Yeah, before I go forward, just want to remind you that I have started posting the CUET test papers on studywithsudhir.com website. You need to register with your email ID. That's a one-time process. Then sign in with the same email ID and you will see the test papers icon. The CUET papers thing is right now on the first one on that particular list. You can take a look. So if you are appearing for CUET, I'm going to be posting a whole lot of test papers on the website. I will also be doing videos for English in order to prepare you for CUET. So please do have a look at both of them. Okay, now let us understand the preparation strategy first. Okay, that's important. Let's look at literature, Flamingo, and Vistas first. Now, there is a certain feeling among a section of students that you actually can score more marks in section B, that is literature, than in section A, which is reading skills and writing skills. Let me tell you, it is not so. And I'll tell you why it doesn't happen. For the simple reason that many students tend to be selective in what they study. For example, if there are so many X number of stories and X number of poems, they'll say, "Arey yaar, a roadside stand is very tough. I'm leaving it out. My mother at 66 is also very tricky. I'm leaving it out." And if those poems come in the examination, then they feel stumped and then they will have to answer some other question which they may not be very comfortable with. The same thing goes for stories in Vistas. The same thing goes for stories even in Flamingo. So either they do selective study, as a result of which they lose out on scoring a 40 on 40 in section B, or they are too overconfident कि अरे literature में क्या है, story मालूम है, कहानी का summary पढ़ लिया, we have studied the summary, we are good enough. Sorry to say, let me burst that myth. Let me tell you that if you are going to write the story in the examination at the class 12 level, this is, mark my words, this is the surest way to lose marks if you are going to write the story. If there are people who are going to tell you the story and you feel, "Arey 5 minute mein pura chapter samjha diya," sorry to disappoint you. Story writing is not going to fetch you marks. You're expected to substantiate, you're expected to interpret, you're expected to analyze, you're expected to discuss, right? Please understand the meaning of all these words, okay, or justify a particular argument. So this is the reason why section B students don't score very high marks. Okay, so what is really important? The first thing you need to do is the reading of the text at least 3 times in the 2 day gap. Every story, the rat trap, indigo, the poems, Vistas stories, every story, read at least 3 times carefully. Keep marking with the pencil. इस book का तुमको और आगे जाके कुछ नहीं करना है. Mark it with the pencil so that the keywords you remember, right? Especially in stories like the rat trap or even in indigo for that matter, right? Deep water, another one. Understanding of the characters and the themes of every poem, every story, every essay. You need to know the themes and the character analysis of each one of them. Refer to my videos where I have explained everything in detail. Refer to my revision videos along with those test papers. Everything is available free of cost here on this channel. Please take advantage of that. The second part is the understanding of the poetic devices and meaning of every word used in the textbook with the context in which they have been used. Poetic devices, very important. You do get questions on that. So as far as the poems are concerned, apart from the themes, you also need to know the literary devices. Then the third point that I want you to do is that in every poem, now if you do this kind of work before you go into the examination hall, the advantage you get is that you do not spend more time in thinking inside the examination hall. For example, in deep water, okay, why am I talking about the central theme? The central theme is overcoming fear. So please ensure that you have the 4-5 points for overcoming fear, substantiating it from the text, using the keywords from the textbook. Do that, prepare it before you go into the thing. The same goes for, let's say, a story like The Enemy, right? A roadside stand, for example, is about the divide between the urban rich and the rural poor, right? Similarly, deep water is about overcoming fear. So what I want you to do is that if you prepare these points along with the keywords, the long format questions will get easy because they are usually framed around these main themes, the central themes. So preparing them in advance while remembering the keywords will be very, very useful. Okay, then practice with PYQs as it will help you understand. Look at the last 5 years PYQs. Will be extremely useful. I do hope you have those PYQ books. Oswald Books has it. I mean, of course, it's too late for you to order and get it, but I'm sure you can borrow it from somebody or the other. So the PYQs, at least of the last 5 years, I'm not asking you to go till 2015-16. Just the last 5 years, the post-COVID test papers where more competency-based questions have been asked. Look at those PYQs. It will give you an idea about what kind of questions usually have been asked in the past. So they will help you understand the pattern and the style of the competency based questions. Please remember, I'm repeating, story लिख के आने से तुमको marks नहीं मिलेंगे. You will not be able to score marks if you just write the story and come. You are expected to show your understanding of that particular poem, story or essay. Let's now move to section A. The reading skills question is for 22 marks. This will test you on conceptual understanding, analysis, interpretation, vocabulary. These are broadly the 4 areas in which these reading skills, the comprehension, the reading comprehension passages test you. So you need to practice at least 5 to 6 passages, 3 passages each over 2 days should not be very difficult. You can do it with your pre-board papers. You can do it with any of the previous year question papers. You can borrow some pre-board paper from other students in your locality, in your city, and do it with that. Very easy, not very difficult. Okay, so please practice with at least 3 passages each. Okay. You need to also understand the tone of the author because you need to understand what is it that the author is trying to convey. That is really the crux of the entire passage. If you are able to crack what the author is trying to say, trust me, you will be able to score full marks in the reading skills question. Also understand how to interpret the pie charts and analyze the data, okay, which I'm pretty sure at the class 12 level you should be able to do something like this. You should be able to analyze what does this 47% mean, what does this 10% mean, how do you correlate it to the overall picture. You should be able to do that very easily. So if you practice it, it will only help you get better and faster at something like this. Okay, then we come to the writing skills of 18 marks. That would need one complete understanding of the format, but format se sirf 1 mark hi milega. Please remember the marks division. Generally format is 1 mark, your content is 2 mark, the way your spellings and grammar is another mark, the way you present it is another mark, right? So practice letter writing, notice writing, report and article writing, at least one of each format. Also remember that word limit is important because many students tend to overshoot as far as the word limit is concerned. So that the word limit is important. So you need to be economical with the words, because if you write over the word limit, you will be penalized. Don't think you're going to get more marks just because you have written more. So you need to know how to write it while being economical with your content. Okay. Now, for article writing and report writing, I want you to prepare some of these kind of topics so that you go with some amount of preparation. I'm not saying these are definitely the ones which are going to come, but when you go prepared, even something correlated, you will be able to attack it. You will know exactly how to attack a particular article, subject, topic, question, or a report question, or even a letters to the editor kind of a question. Prepare some points like pollution, environment, technology. When I say technology, it can mean everything from mobile phones to AI to CCTV cameras, Big Brother surveillance, everything, right? Education, tourism, health, population. So just prepare some points on each. If you prepare some data point, that would really help you. It will make your report, your article that much better if you are able to include a relevant data point. Here I want to tell you, please don't manufacture a data point. That's again something very important, because in these days of AI and ChatGPT and Google, it will be very easy for the examiner to find out that you have only manufactured a particular data point. As far as letters are concerned, prepare points on civic issues. It could be garbage disposal, it could be park maintenance, sanitation, traffic management, street lights, upkeep of a particular monument. So if you keep these kind of points ready, again, these are some of the topics which may come. Or it could be something related to health, about how you want to use the park for conducting yoga classes, something like that. So just keep something ready so that your mind is tuned to how do you particularly write a letter, right? Then let's move forward. What should be your strategy in the examination hall? Now, all this is fine. You're prepared. Now you go to the examination hall and you have to write the paper. How do you approach the paper? My personal opinion, and it can differ from person to person. So I'm not saying that you have to do this. This is my opinion on how you should manage your time. My advice is to start with the writing section for the simple reason that your mind is generally fresh. And this is the creative part. Reading comprehension, you're generally going by what the passage is. Literature is, again, you are kind of bound by what the poems and the stories have been. The writing skills, needs you to be more creative. Therefore, when your mind is fresh, I would like you to start with the writing section, the 18 marks, because you would need to be creative and a fresh mind approach would always work. The problem with starting with the RC is that suppose you get a slightly difficult, tricky, tough, very draining kind of a comprehension passage, you may end up spending too much time, and also it may kind of tire your mind. So my suggestion to you is to not to start with the RC, start with the writing. You may, you could read the RC first just to get an idea about what the passage is about, but start with the writing skill so that you get the creative part out of the way before anything else. That is my opinion. Please do as per your wish what works for you or what has worked for you in the pre-board examination. How should you approach the RC question? Now there can be two approaches, और ऐसा नहीं है कि option A is better than option B or option B is better than option A. It can work for different. Option A may work for me, option B may work for me. It doesn't mean that I am better and you are inferior, or you are better and I am inferior. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, right? So please understand that option A is to read the passage first a couple of times, understand it, and then go to the questions. Okay, that is option A. Option B is to read the questions first and then look for those answers in the passage. Okay, ये भी कुछ लोग करते हैं ना. ऐसा नहीं है कि ये superior है या ये inferior है. I'll tell you the difference and what can happen in either of the thing. Option A, option B can save some time compared to option A if the passage is not very tricky. Okay, अगर passage easy हुआ तो option B is a better option, because questions देखे सीधा उसका आंसर आपको पैसेज में मिल गया, काम खत्म हो गया. Fine, very good. But if the passage is tricky, especially the data wala question, the second RC passage, then option A can be better, because if you understand it, then it is easier for you to tackle the questions, in which case option A works better. So when you read it the first time, you will get an idea कि passage किस तरह का है, easy है या थोड़ा सा tricky है, टेढ़ा है, right? उसके हिसाब से you should decide your approach, is my honest opinion. I am not here to give Gurudev की तरह ज्ञान कि यही पढ़ो, मैंने ये किया था, मेरे को इतने मार्क्स आए थे. I am not making any such claim. I am telling you a practical reason on what is a better approach, what could work better in either of the two cases, right? Option B, as I said, is read the questions and look for the relevant answers in the passage. This works if the passage is an easy passage. Option A works if the passage is a little tricky. Section A, you should target at least to finish in the first 1.5 hours, right? So that you keep the second 1.5 hours, actually 1 hour 20 minutes, leaving 10 minutes for revision at the end. Okay. Now, what about literature? Ensure that you adhere to the word limit. If you tend to write too much in the short answer question, जो 40 to 50 mark के जो answer words होते हैं, you will lose out on time to attempt the 120 to 150 words wale question. So you may also get penalized for exceeding the word limit. CBSE examiners are strict. 5 words, 10 words, they may be okay with that. But if you are going to write a 100-word answer for a 50-word question, you will get penalized, right? So this is something, word limit, very important. Look at it and write accordingly. Okay. So yeah. The other thing is that ensure your answers include the keywords from the text. This becomes very important. For example, this question from the third level, which came in 2025. Charlie's desperate attempt to find the third level reflects his frustration with the modern world. Substantiate the above statement with evidence from the story. Answer in 40 to 50 words. Now, this is an answer written by one of the toppers. What did she write? He or she write? The key is to use information from the story to buttress your argument. You need to write about how it symbolizes his yearning to escape the stress and complexity of the modern world, his fascination with the peaceful 1890s, his dissatisfaction with the fast-paced, war-torn environment of the modern day, and that highlights his desire for simplicity and tranquility. इतना ही लिखना है 40 to 50 words के आंसर में, राइट? यहां से शुरू करना है, उतना ही लिखना है. You don't need to write too much, but you have included all the necessary keywords which will ensure that you will get the full marks as far as this particular question is concerned. That's all. Do not overwrite. Do not go into over explaining. Understand what the question is asking you and target it directly. It has to be a direct surgical strike. इधर उधर बमबारी नहीं करनी है. Okay. Then what else? Yeah, I just want to remind you once again that all the explanation videos detailed, because that's what is required. Summary se kaam nahi chalega bandhu. So you need to look at that. Then you look at the revision videos, see it at 1.5x speed, but do see it. उसी के अंदर मैंने टेस्ट पेपर्स भी डाल रखे हैं, सभी पोएम्स, सभी स्टोरीज के, राइट? द लास्ट 2 पोएम्स के will be put within the next 12 to 14 hours. Poems and stories have been done. Look at them and revise them a day before the examination. So CBSE with Sudhir में ये जरूर देखना है. Okay. Then let me leave you with a couple of specific tips. It will be a good idea for you to underline it. You could do it with pencil. You could do it with the pen. Not a problem. The key phrases and the keywords, if you can underline it in the section B, in the literature answers. Okay. It will make it easier for the examiner. Make it easier for the examiner to award you the marks. Number 2, letters are easier than a job application, usually speaking, because job application में there are too many details that you need to keep in mind. By chance कुछ छूट गया, you will unnecessarily lose marks, right? Applications, यहाँ पे ज़्यादा information देना पड़ता है. So in my opinion, letters to the editor in particular are easier than a job application. Then final strategy, in article writing and report writing, know how to present your information in a formal manner. Your language cannot be Instagram or WhatsApp language. Your language has to be absolutely formal with correct grammar and correct spellings. Remember, content and how you organize your ideas carry 3 out of 5 marks. Content के 2 mark, how you organize it, another 1 mark. So 3, spellings or grammar का 1 mark and format का 1 mark. So the content and how you present that content is 3 out of 5 marks. So please keep that in mind. If you are messy with the way you introduce and write your article or report, you will not get the full 5 marks. Also, avoid doing selective study. That's my suggestion. Try to do the entire syllabus so that you maximize your chances of scoring a 40 on 40. Why would you want to settle for a 32 on 40? Why? Why would you want to give the 8 marks in charity to the CBSE? Try to score a 40 on 40 in literature for sure. That should be your aim. Okay. So with this, I come to the end. I hope this has been of use. Please take a look at this. Maybe after your exam gets over, I've put an initial set of test papers. There will be more test papers which will be put in April and in May. By the 30th of May is when we are expecting the entire CUET process to get over. So if you are an aspirant, this is where you should head to. Okay, so all the best for the English examination. I do hope you do very well and pass with flying colors. 80 on 80, remember, is our target. Tata, bye bye. Thank you very much. Namaskar.